Yes, well, I guess you kind of have to turn to the internet a little bit because the media wasn't paying much attention. Daniel, speak to me about that. I mean, you couldn't get a lot of airplay on CNN and Fox News. Did the internet help you, or was it just a minor effect?
Well, when I ran out of money and that sort of stuff, it basically became the only way. You really never know who you're contacting over the internet because of a lot of the fictitious names and locations and that sort of stuff. So I decided, the heck with it, I'll just go with an international flair because the U.S. president tends to have impact all around the world.
I guess that's true enough. And I guess if in your case, Seth, I mean, certainly you were talking about you did manage to get some media exposure. Did you think that the internet was a big part of that?
The internet was a big part of it. I was in 16 states, registered as a write-in, and it was covered by about 30 newspapers in the United States after the Associated Press did a little article on me, and it was covered, of course, in Canada by you. Newspaper Russia, Brazil, Sweden, Finland. I got some coverage from National Public Radio, MTV News, CBS, ABC, NBC, USA Today, CNN, YouTube, Yahoo, and Google, which isn't too bad for having spent less than $500 on this particular campaign. Was listed to lots of websites that listed the various candidates. And it's Black, who's a comedian, managed to mention my candidacy on several talk shows, which is very kind of him. And the letter that I wrote to editors in the states where I was permitted to as a write-in, one person had the courage to publish my letter to the editor in Wisconsin of all places, and it sort of took the media to task as well as the two candidates who weren't discussing children's issues, which was the whole reason why I was running.
Right. Now, obviously, I mean, even with all that media exposure, it still didn't quite work out for you. So I guess the question is whether or not this was worth doing. And what I'd like to do, guys, is you were both on the line together, is I'd like to have you have a discussion amongst yourselves about this issue. We'll start with you, I guess, Daniel, and then feel free to jump in as well, Santa. Daniel, to start this off, I mean, did you think this was worth doing, given the fact you didn't get much recognition and indeed you didn't have much success?
Well, success is measured by individuals, and I consider my campaign a tremendous success, although the idea of becoming president didn't happen. The fact that I learned an awful lot about American politics, about some of the odd feelings that happen in order to get state politics and that sort of stuff, to me it was a learning experience. I learned an awful lot about the people of America and traveling around the country as well. Well, I personally think it was great. I went ahead and got some coverage for the children's issues, the abuse, neglect, exploitation, abandonment, homelessness, and institutionalization of 2 million children annually in the United States. So that was my main objective, and it happened to a certain degree. So I'm pleased.
Well, Santa, do you think the election of Barack Obama is good for children's issues?
I think it is. I think it will be good for the children's issues. He has two daughters of his own that I've met, had the pleasure of meeting. They were a lot of fun to talk with. And I think he has a heart for children, and even though he did not discuss children's issues in depth during his campaign, I think Michelle, his wife, is going to hold his feet to the fire on that one.
What do you think, Daniel? Do you think Barack Obama will be good for your country?
Well, it's hard to tell. If it's politics as usual, then the lesser of evils, I don't know. If he only does half of what he said he was going to do, he will be better than half a dozen of the previous presidents. If not, then we're just headed in the same direction that Bush was taking us, and that's not good. Only time is good to know.
Do you feel that this election was contested in a fair manner and that the people did in fact get what they wanted?
From what little I learned recently, there were an awful lot of duplicate ballots sent out. There was 3 or 4 people in the Wilcox, Arizona area who one person received 4 ballots, received 2 for ex-husband that had moved out of state, and she received 2 in her name, and then another woman received 2. One of them was for a person that had died about 8 months earlier. And so it's hard to tell whether or not this was a fair election or not with the just based on the number of excess ballots that were sent out. So it's hard to tell.
Have you heard anything about that, Santa?
Haven't heard much about it, but I know there were several million people in the popular vote that Obama had over McCain. So I imagine even if there were duplicate votes, it probably wouldn't have a whole lot of impact.
But I guess one of the things that was interesting about this election, I mean, at least on the face of it, it seems that the people did at least sort of get what they wanted. I mean, some Republican states went for the Democrats. Same thing in the Senate and such. It did kind of seem like this was a bit of a movement. And I think that was part of the thinking, wasn't it, guys, that maybe this might have been the election for an independent candidate because people were clearly ready for some kind of change.
People were ready for change. Sorry, go ahead.
Daniel, go ahead.
Okay. As far as whether the people are getting what they want, only the next 4 years will tell that. I mean, every 4 years, the people get what they want as far as the promises, but don't get what they want as far as delivery. Only the next 4 years are going to tell what they want as far as delivery.
Santa, what do you think?
Well, I think I'm probably the only candidate ever that's been to all 50 states in person talking with the state legislators, particularly the governor's staffs, about children's issues. And the read that I got was most of the people there were looking for a change for sure, and that's exactly what they got in this particular election. So I think they're happy about it. And I think candidates like Daniel and like me and some of the other independent candidates that were out there have our particular interests, but I think collectively we were sort of precursors of this particular vote for change, as it were. And Obama timed it just right. I think he had a good plan. He executed it extraordinarily well. And hopefully some of what he's proposed will become model programs here and there. And the vast part of the population will benefit from it, despite some misgivings and reservations from part of the population that happened to vote for McCain.
Interesting thoughts here on these subjects, and I think you're right. He did seem to time it perfectly, given being that it was such a, I guess, at a time that was right for this kind of change momentum. I can't say I was terribly surprised at the results, although I don't know. Do you guys have any idea at all how you guys fared? If you guys did well, if you guys didn't do well, do any of you, whoever has the answer, I guess, can speak first on this, but do any of you have any idea at all whether or not you got any kind of significant vote?
I haven't called the secretaries of state yet. Actually, the 16 states where I was registered to run. However, I do know by just looking through the media that I got as many votes as Al Gore did in Florida. Yeah, that was pretty amusing. So I'm happy.
Daniel, what about you? Do you have any idea at all how many votes you got?
This past Wednesday or Thursday, I sent emails out to about 35 of the Secretary of State's office, the Election Commission, to find out what they have recorded from the cities within their state. Haven't heard anything back from them yet.
Gotcha. What does your instinct tell you? I mean, how many votes do you think you managed to pull off?
That is really tough to call, because if every candidate got all the votes that were promised to him, we'd all be president.
Stan, I suppose you agree with that, do you?
Yeah, I echo that thought for sure.
Well, we're joined here in the studio by one of my colleagues. His name is Chris Alexander. He's the only person I know that knows more about American politics than I do.